Welcome to First Down Punts, a show about the on-field and off-the-field news in the world of pro football, as well as how it relates to fantasy football all season long. Thanks for joining in, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
And welcome in, everyone, to another episode of First Down Punts. I'm your host, Coach Chris. Today we're going to be going over our top 25 fantasy running backs for the 2025 NFL season. Before we get into that, we're going to get into a couple things of note in the NFL news. This happened last week, but Frank Ragnow officially announced his retirement, and which is sad news for my Detroit Lions because he's probably top 3 center in the NFL, and his body's just been beat up in the first, I think it's 7 years now. So he's only 29 years old. I think it took a long time for him to consider actually retiring. I think he was hoping his body would probably bounce back a little bit quicker in the offseason because it sounds like he's been contemplating it for a while. And the NFL's a rough place, man. Not everybody always gets the same length of career, man. Obviously, everybody would love to play 15 years that wants to, but at the end of the day, some guys retire early, and we've had a few of them this offseason between Mitch Morse retired, but he was a little bit older. I think he's like 32. David Andrews retired. I'm trying to remember who the other guy that was like 30 or something retired this year. I don't know right now. I can't recall, but definitely a hit for the Lions offensive line. Obviously, they drafted the Tate Ratledge kid, and one thing about him that I seen today was that he has the same RAS score, which is one of those athletic tests that they give everyone, as Creed Humphrey and Frank Ragnow was like his comparable players in the RAS score. So that made me feel a little bit better that we drafted him. And then with Amon-Ra, the news came out today that he had offseason knee surgery after the season, but should be ready for training camp. Lions are taking some hits this offseason, man, and it's rough to deal with at times, and it gets you a little concerned. I mean, we went 15-2 last year and didn't have a defense for the second half of the season. So it's not like I think we're just falling apart. I'm just saying we're taking some hits. And I'm hoping we can get through it and get back healthy and be ready to go for the beginning of the season and figure out our issues on the offensive line now with losing Zeitler in free agency and Ragnow to retirement. Lions are definitely got some question marks right now. I don't think that they're like totally terrible, so don't fool yourself on that. Don't think it's not the collapse of the Detroit Lions. It's just what every team has to deal with, retirements and injuries and stuff like that. I have faith that they're going to be all right. It's just you never like to hear bad news. So other news today that just popped off was Aaron Rodgers finally decided he's going to sign with the Steelers and will be there next week for mandatory minicamp, which is what I've been trying to say. Get into camp, get in rhythm with your guys. It's important. I wonder what kind of offensive scheme they're going to run, because we know Arthur Smith has his offensive scheme, but Rodgers loves to run the offense he's always ran, which made me think about it when somebody said that. It was like that Rodgers is a system quarterback because he's always usually running the same system. Now, I don't actually believe that, but it does make you think for a second, hey, what's going to happen if he runs a different offense? Is it going to be better? Is it going to be worse? Is it going to be just as good? I already don't think Rodgers is as good as he used to be, obviously. And he showed that coming off the Achilles the first half of last year, that he was still recovering. Second half of last year, like Rodgers' stats last year were actually a little better than I thought they were. And definitely didn't expect to see it. I think he still threw for like 4,300 yards or something like that. I forget what it was now. I looked at it about a week and a half ago. But just going to be interesting what happens there in Pittsburgh. I'm glad the diva shit's over for now. Everybody's got to wonder when he's showing up. Look, I don't know about you guys, but when I'm on a team, I want my teammates there. I want us to be together. I want us to get working on the chemistry and everything else. And anybody that's not doing that, short of a contract holdout, I get that. You're trying to get your money, but hold in is what you should do. That way you don't get fined and you're still there with your teammates. So this Aaron Rodgers thing, we all know Rodgers has his ordeals with darkness retreats and whatever else he's doing in the off seasons. But it's good for the Steelers that he's getting in camp now and not waiting another couple weeks. And we'll see what happens with that. Another thing of note, Terry McLaurin is looking to get a new contract, which in my mind he deserves. We'll see what happens with that. He is 30 years old, but he's been a loyal player for them, man. And sometimes you got to pay the price for a guy like that. If you're not, just trade him to a team that will, because he deserves it. He deserves the money. I would hurt Jaden Daniels' fantasy value. And depending on where he went, it would hurt McLaurin's value if he went to the wrong team. But at the end of the day, Terry McLaurin deserves to be paid, man. He's a hell of a professional. He's a team player, and he's a damn good football player at the end of the day, period. He's paid as like the 16th highest receiver right now, 17th, something like that. And I don't think he deserves $35 million, nothing like that. I think he deserves a raise, and especially for what he did last year when he finally got a real quarterback. When he finally had a starting quarterback that was worth a damn, Terry McLaurin balled out. So I'm expecting more of the same this year from him. Get him some money, Washington. Get him paid. Similar to what Baltimore just did. One more thing, I forgot about this. Rashad Bateman got a 3-year deal today too. I think it was like $36 million. It's only like $12 million a year or something like that. I forget the final numbers, but it was a 3-year deal for Rashad Bateman there in Baltimore. So good news for him. Got him some money. Other than that, guys, we're going to get in this top 25, starting with number 25. That's Aaron Jones, Minnesota Vikings. Aaron Jones last year had over 1,100 yards rushing, had over 400 yards receiving on like 51 catches, but he only had six or seven touchdowns. I think it was 7 touchdowns. So he hit the staple back marks of 1,400 total yards with 400 receiving. He would have been a stable back if he had got a few more touchdowns. Aaron Jones is still a capable back. Now, they traded for Jordan Mason from San Francisco, who actually had a lot of statistical success, like efficiency success last year with the Niners. He's going to a different team. You don't know what to expect when he gets there, but I do think Jordan Mason is a damn good running back. I think he's going to help keep Aaron Jones fresh more than be stealing from Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones had I think it was right around 250 touches. So he had almost 300 touches with the catches. So he can handle the load. And he take a little bit off of that. All right, Jones hits 1,000 this year, only 350 receiving. He's still going to have if he can get some more touchdowns, he's still a damn good running back. And at number 25, it's not like you're overpaying for a guy, even if he loses a little bit off his stats coming into the season. But he's in a good offense, barring J.J. McCarthy, obviously. But that's another reason he's down here. I think he finishes like the 17th or 16th, something like that, best running back last year, maybe a little bit higher because there's a couple injuries. So, but a guy that is still a damn good running back, still going to score you points, and you shouldn't be afraid to draft later in the later 5th, 6th, 7th round area. I don't remember what his ADP is right now, but a guy that can score points, that's for sure. Number 24, Tony Pollard, Tennessee Titans. Now, some people are going, what do you mean? Like, unbeknownst to a lot of you guys, Tony Pollard ran for 1,000 yards last year and had 41 catches for over 200 and some yards, which you would love that to be higher, but he's never been known as some huge receiving back. He had good stats in Dallas when he got the opportunity to catch the passes, but he's still got some speed, so you'd like him to see him break one of those, maybe hit that 300-yard mark. But Tony Pollard got 260 carries last year. Now, Tajay Spears was a little banged up, but so was Pollard at times. Pollard just got more of the games to himself than Spears did, and Spears is still going to be involved. But the 40 catches is nice, and he's another guy like Aaron Jones. Even if he loses a little, you're still going to be happy to have him as your third running back or deep second running back. You waited out, you went hero RB, and now him and Aaron Jones are your number twos. It's not going to kill you if you stacked up at other spots to do that. But Tony Pollard and Aaron Jones are both guys that score points. Tony Pollard's still a good back in this league. And with Cam Ward getting there, that offense should be much better, which means he probably shouldn't lose any opportunities. I think they're just going to have more opportunities for plays because of the success that they can have with a real quarterback. You get Calvin Ridley there. You got the other Ayamainer, Restrepo. They signed Lockett. You got a lot of offensive weapons there for Cam Ward to keep that offense getting those first downs and getting more and more opportunities. I could see Tony Pollard rushing for 1,200 this year. I could see him having 300 yards receiving, like 1,600 total yards, and wouldn't be shocked by that at all. I want him to get in double-digit touchdowns because last year he only had 5 rushing touchdowns and 0 receiving touchdowns. I need him to get those double-digit touchdowns for him to be that top 15 guy that you really want him to be. But getting him as the 24th best running back in fantasy, you're not going to be sad because I'm pretty sure he's going to finish above that. Number 23, an oldie but goodie, Joe Mixon. Last year, Joe Mixon had 1,000 yards, 11 rushing touchdowns, 300 receiving yards, and I think like one receiving touchdown with like 35 catches or something like that. He's a guy that has always been a good back, man. And obviously, he's more about, hey, give me the volume. When Houston, he's getting volume still. He slowed down at the end of last season. We all know that last 4 or 5 weeks of last season, he might have cost the people some championships if they were still starting them some of those games. Which, how could you not be doing it when he did so good in the beginning of the season, first half of the season? So it's hard to make those decisions come playoffs, come final end of the season time of, man, can I sit a guy that I've been trusting all year? But sometimes you got to. And he was one of those guys that last year, he just didn't do what you needed him to do down the stretch. Now, he's had other seasons where he didn't do shit in the first half and exploded down the stretch. So it's not like some common theme for him. It's just the fact that the matter is he got a little banged up last year. Houston's offense wasn't as good when all the receivers got banged up. Offensive line was in shambles. Stroud wasn't playing as well. Those things all are factored in. But I got a lot more confidence going into this year of Houston's offense than I did last year. And Mixon is a guy you could still get later. Maybe you have to draft him a little bit higher. Maybe you have to draft. But I just feel like people are going to be sleeping on him because of all the excitement about these other guys, about some of the rookies, about how many catches Kamara had. Like, I think these guys are going to go ahead of him. You're going to end up getting Mixon at a value, even if it's a little bit higher than this. But this is where I would have him ranked on my list, simply for the fact that I still trust him. He's a guy I'm fine having. But I would like to have someone with a little more pop to their game, and a little bit younger maybe, and catches the ball a little bit more, especially in these PPR leagues, which I don't even know why you're not playing in a PPR. I don't understand the point of half PPR. Why are we giving them half point? Just give them a whole point. And the non-PPR, that's a dinosaur move playing in a non-PPR. So Mixon's always had value as a receiver, never dominant, never 70, 80 catches, nothing like that, no crazy stats. But he always gets between like 30 and 50 catches. And if he can do that again, you're going to be happy with him, along with his rushing stats. So he's a guy that you can still count on, still draft with confidence in an offense where they don't really have anybody to back him up. They did draft a kid, but I don't think he's doing anything towards Mixon this year. So number 22, my guy, Monty David Montgomery, Detroit Lions. I love David Montgomery. Have since he was a Bear. I hated that he was a Bear because I don't like cheering for Bears. But in fantasy, I've always liked David Montgomery. And I love him being on the Lions. I was happy when we signed him. Last year, he missed, was it 4 games, 5? I forget how many games he missed last year now. But had 775 rush yards, had 12 rushing touchdowns. He was basically averaging a touchdown a game. That was like the first touchdown in the majority of games last year. It was almost good money to bet David Montgomery first touchdown. You probably would have won more than you lost. And surprisingly, they had 36 catches in those games for 340 yards. Didn't get any receiving touchdowns, so that you hate missing out on those. You're trying to get as many scores as possible. You're trying to get as many points as possible. Now, Montgomery's a year older. Offense is changing a little bit. The retirement of Ragnow, Zeitler leaving. Now, they got the Mahogany kid that they like a lot. They think is going to fill in for Zeitler probably. And the Ratledge kid we drafted could definitely play center if we can get him into that spot and get him working, which I'm sure they've been doing since they drafted him because it sounds like they knew Ragnow was going to retire. But it still changes. You got the change in OC from Benedict Johnson to Johnny Morton. These are all changes that I think the Lions offense is going to be fine. I think it's still going to go down a little bit from what they were doing last year. They led the league in points per game last year. I'm not saying they're not going to lead the league in points per game again. I'm just saying maybe it's not 34, maybe it's 31 and a half or some shit. I forget what the totals were last year that they led, but they were scoring points left to right. So I don't see that going away. I still think Monty's going to be a huge part of this offense with the split backs with him and Gibbs, because Gibbs is a special talent that's explosive as shit. Monty is that bell cow that you just beat the shit out the defense with. And they're a great combination. Hopefully Monty stays healthy all season and isn't banged up, and we're going into the playoffs and stuff. But Monty's still a guy you can trust. And yeah, I would start him as a late number 2 back or preferably a number 3 back in fantasy for the fact that he is splitting the backfield with somebody, and Gibbs can take it to the house on any play. So there's going to be drives where Monty just doesn't get as many touches or doesn't get the opportunity to run it in from the 4 and shit. So just something to consider. But Monty's the guy I'm always looking to draft, plain and simple. Number 21, James Conner, Arizona Cardinals. Now, James Conner finished, I think, as like the 11th best running back last year. I'm not here to say he's not going to be able to do that again, but he is older. He is on Arizona Cardinals, who, granted, they didn't really draft anybody to compete with him. I still think he's going to be a bell cow for them. I'm more concerned with age, injury history, and the fact that I think Arizona's passing offense should be a little bit better, a little bit more in rhythm. They improved that offensive line a little bit. And as much as I like James Conner, he's always the guy you get as a steal later, man. I'm not going to rank him way up high with some of these other guys because you got to factor in the fact that he always misses a game or two. Last year, I think he started every game last year for the first time in his career. So I shouldn't say that about last year, but generally he misses a game or two easily. And that's always got to be taken into account when you're drafting him. Now, he had almost 1,100 yards last year, had 48 catches for over 400 yards. He missed the staple back thing by 1 touchdown. He had 9 total touchdowns and needed 1 more. He'd have been a staple back. He's a guy I'm looking to draft, okay? I don't ever want to, like, these are all top 25 guys. These are all guys that are starting in almost every league. So don't take this as a shot at James Conner. Take this as James Conner is one of them steady backs. He's like Monty. He's like Mixon. These guys you can just count on to do their job. I just don't see him doing anything special to the where it's like, oh, I got to reach for this guy way up high. This is the guy you get when you went receiver early or something. This is the guy you get based on how you're drafting. If you're in a super flex, you get a quarterback early instead of a running back. You get a receiver in the 2nd round instead of a running back. You get a tight end in the 3rd round instead of a running back. All right, well, now guess what? I can draft a James Conner, David Montgomery, Joe Mixon to still help me win my league. And I got special guys at these other spots. So just something to consider. But he's a guy that think will have any issue hitting 1,000 yards. I don't know if he'll have as many receptions just because I think Harrison's going to do better. I think they're a team that could sign Keenan Allen, and that would definitely take away from Conner's receptions just because of Keenan Allen's history is, catching short passes and turning them into something. But until that happens, I think you should still be confident that James Conner is going to have 35 to 45 catches and hit 1,000 yards. And he's going to be a guy you can trust. Like I said, he's just not special. He's just a guy you can trust. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay drafting that. It's just all about how to draft falls to you. This is why I like drafting different ways in different years just to see what happens, man. You never know until you figure it out. And if you're one of those people that wants to draft a quarterback early or a tight end early in those single quarterback leagues or tight end premium leagues, you're looking at guys like this instead of getting the Barkleys or the Gibbs or those guys. You're getting these guys down here that are going to help you still win, that you can count on, that you can start every week and know you're not going to get the 40-point blow-up games, but you will get a consistent 16, you know what I mean, that you can just be like, hey, 14 to 16 to this guy, I can count on this guy on a regular basis. All right, number 20, we got our first rookie. That's Quinshon Judkins, Cleveland Browns. They took him at pick, 34, I think it was. Judkins had 1,000 yards last year at Ohio State. Now he was splitting time with Travion Henderson. So you understand that because he's a special talent too. They were doing the Detroit thing with a power back and a special talent doing a split backfield. They both had 1,000 yards rushing. So obviously either one of them could have got more than that if they'd had the backfield to themselves. And the Browns went and drafted Judkins, but then they drafted Dylan Sampson a couple rounds later. They still got Jerome Ford there, who restructured his deal. And I would probably have Judkins higher if they hadn't drafted Dylan Sampson. Ford is always going to be a good player. He's always going to be a guy that's around. You understand why he gets carries. He's a good guy, not a great guy. You know what I mean? He's just a guy that you have on your team that you can count on to do what you know he can do. You're not looking for anything special from Jerome Ford. Judkins, Sampson, these guys could be special. They have the ability to do things that Ford can't. And like I said, if they hadn't drafted Sampson, Judkins would be higher up on his list because when they drafted him, I was like, yes, we know who the starting quarterback or starting running back is. And then 2 rounds later, they drafted Sampson. I was like, shit, we don't know who to start. No, but Judkins will probably be the starter. Sampson will probably be that guy that he takes to the house. but I would like to have the Nick Chubb role guy for the Cleveland Browns because Nick Chubb is a damn fine running back. Is Judkins Chubb? Time will tell. But having that offense, that opportunity, and I think it's going to be Flacco to start the season, which makes it that much better for Judkins because the offense will probably run smoother. So you draft Judkins, you're going to be a happy camper. I don't think you're going to be sad. At worst case scenario, he gets like 900 yards. The best case scenario, he's got like 1,300 yards. So I don't think it's going to be an issue, barring injury, that Judkins has success this season. And for fantasy, I just don't want to overreach for a guy that I like simply because I like him. I want to be realistic about where I would draft him. I think he's probably going to hit the 1,100 mark this year, somewhere in between that 9 and 13, get him 9 to 10 touchdowns. I don't know how many catches he'll have. He could end up with only like 20 catches. He could end up with like 35, 40 catches. But that'll be determined over the course of the season. We'll have a better idea going into next season exactly how involved he'll be in the pass game. But I know he's going to be involved in that run game, and he's a guy that you should be happy drafting. Number 19, another oldie but goodie. I got him down here. He didn't finish down here, but I got him down here for the simple reason of age and what's going on with the offense. And that's Alvin Kamara, New Orleans Saints. Last year, Kamara didn't hit the 1,000-yard rushing mark. Almost did. Came 50 yards shy of that with 950 and 6 rushing touchdowns. And then had 68 catches for over 300 yards and 2 touchdowns. Alvin Kamara is always going to be a great receiving back. I was surprised by how many rushing yards because he usually gets around like 800. And to see him almost close to 1,000 was real nice. But I think they had 2 guys retire, 2 offensive linemen retire, and 1 leave via free agency or something. Their offensive line has got to be rewarded. Derek Carr retired. Another guy gone to help that offense. Now, I'm a big Tyler Shuck fan. I just think it's going to be a rough start for the Saints as a whole, simply because Shuck didn't get a ton of time in college on the field. I think he's got the tools to do it. I just don't think it's going to start off great. I think the first 4 or 5 weeks are going to be that learning process. Once he gets into that rhythm, I think the Saints as a whole will be better. And they're probably going to be guys I'm saying trade for in the second half. The Olave, the Kamaras. Go get these guys after 6-7 weeks when the guy that drafted them is sad as shit because they didn't do what they expect them to do. Now, Kamara's always going to get catches. I've yet to see that change. I think he's had 1 game in his career where he didn't record a catch. Other than that, Kamara's always got catches. He's always going to be a good receiving back. I think getting Devin Neal there is good. Kendre Miller still has some talent, but I think Devin Neal is going to end up being the guy that you're really counting on as a number 2 guy there over the course of the season. Maybe not right away. Maybe they're trying to work all 3 of them in, but it's going to take opportunities away from Kamara, who last year he had like, I think it was 225, 230 carries. He's probably going to drop down around 200, and those other guys are going to get those opportunities. Not to mention how many first downs are they going to get the first handful of weeks. How many real opportunities are going to be out there. And that's something I'm yet to see. I like Shuck, but I do think it's going to be a rough start for the Saints offense to begin the season. Like I said, these are going to be second half players that I'm trying to trade for. But so I got Kamara down here at 19. It's not a diss at Kamara. Kamara's always been one of those uber talented guys. I just think with age and offensive setup right now, they're in a rebuild process, and there's always a slow start when going through those things. So something to pay attention to, something to keep in mind. Number 18, R.J. Harvey, Denver Broncos, rookie. I told you guys this guy reminded me of Brian Westbrook, man. Now, it came out, J.K. Dobbins is going for a visit with the Broncos. Even if they sign him, I think that's more an indictment on the rest of those running backs. Because Sean Payton didn't draft R.J. Harvey in the second round to replace him. He drafted him in the second round because he knows what he's capable of. And I love R.J. Harvey. I think the guy's got tons of talent. I think J.K. Dobbins has tons of talent. I had him last year in fantasy. I drafted him as a later round pick. Panned out, got banged up. Probably cost me down the course of the season trying to win that championship last year in my home league. But he's still a guy that has talent. And with him and Harvey, I think that'd be a great combo, man. I'm not going to lie to you. I still think Harvey's going to be the guy getting 250 and Dobbins gets 120, 130 carries. I still think R.J. Harvey's going to be the guy getting 40 catches and Dobbins gets 25. Like, I feel like that would be the split between those guys. And with those opportunities for R.J. Harvey, I don't see there's a way he fails. And RJ Harvey's the guy I like a lot. I'm also never going to reach for rookies. I don't care who you are. The highest I ever drafted a rookie running back was like 13 overall, and that was Ezekiel Elliott, his rookie season in my home league. Because in my home league, we start 3 running backs. It's not flex spots. It's 3 straight running back spots. So taking risks on guys is like the year I drafted Zeke, I'm trying to remember who I drafted with my first pick. I know it was a running back, though, because I wanted to get a vet first and then get that rookie. I like to have that insurance of guy I'm comfortable with before I go and reach for the guy that I'm excited about. And that's why I got RJ Harvey down here. I think RJ Harvey should probably be a 3rd-round pick. Maybe you get him in the 4th, and you're real happy about it. I think RJ Harvey's got tons of talent. But I also think I'm not going to draft him in the 1st round simply for the fact that there's so much other talent that is already proven. And that's how I'm going to feel about all these rookies. Like I said, I've never drafted a rookie rookie running back higher than 13. And I don't even plan to do that this year with Genty. I'll probably have him ranked around 15, 16. And this isn't a super flex league, man. I mean, he might be as far as 19, 20 just because of the quarterbacks that we're going to draft. But there's a limit to the quarterbacks. You're going to get 5, 6 quarterbacks that are in that top tier. And then you can wait and you can decide, well, I didn't get one of those guys. I'm going to draft a receiver or a running back. And Genty may come into consideration in the 2nd round for me, depending on, where your draft is slotted at. I'm not taking him over a Barkley. I'm not taking him over a Gibbs or Bijan, those guys. But Genty's going to be high up on the board for me because we'll see that as we go up this list. I'll show you where I got him. But when it comes to drafting rookies, I'm always going to have that little bit of hesitation because I haven't done it yet in the NFL. So I'm going to knock them down a couple spots lower than I really want to draft them just to kind of have that security blanket for myself. If they make it there, great, I'm taking them. If they don't, okay, that's fine. I'll get the next guy. Whatever it comes down to, I'm always going to try to protect myself against rookies because rookies haven't played in the NFL, guys. I know we all love to get excited about the new toys, but at the end of the day, some of those new toys break. Some of those new toys are not made very well. Some of those new toys don't fit very well with what you're trying to do in the NFL. And that's just the facts, man. You're going to see rookies. We see it every year. There's rookies everybody gets hyped up on. Kamani Vidal was one of those guys last year. For the Chargers, they had the Gus Bus and J.K. Dobbins. Vidal barely got on the field even when Gus got hurt because Dobbins was doing so well. And Vidal wasn't being very special. But there was a lot of excitement about him as a deep round sleeper. Oh, go get this guy as a sleeper. I had him on my team at times last year because of the injuries. But at the end of the day, he is not as talented as some of these other guys. So it's always something to protect yourself against the rookie hype. Another rookie, though, I'm going to put him next on the board. Number 17, Caleb Johnson. I got these guys back-to-back because I think they're both very special talents. Johnson went to the Pittsburgh Steelers. With the news of Rodgers signing there today, I might end up moving him up a little bit higher. But it's something I have to debate because, again, it's about the protecting yourself from the rookie hype. I'm a huge Caleb Johnson fan. I always believe in drafting Pittsburgh RB. I told you about that in another video. Me and my buddy, Pittsburgh RB, Dallas RB. These are guys that you want. Now, Dallas hasn't been as successful the last few years, so you see none of those are on here yet. But with Pittsburgh, even last year, Najee had 1,000 yards. I think almost 1,100 yards or something like that last year. I have to go back and look. But I'm pretty sure, Najee had 1,000 yards last year for sure. So Caleb Johnson comes in and does exactly what Najee does. You're going to be happy if you draft him here at 17. If you draft him as the 9th best running back, maybe you're pissed off. But if he does better than Najee, he's going to end up as the 9th best running back, and you're going to be super excited if you got him as the 17th running back. And he's a guy that I think is going to come right in and fit right into that system, man. I think he's the perfect running back for them. It was them or Dallas that he could end up with, I thought would be great for him. And going to Pittsburgh is just one of those two spots. Caleb Johnson is a stud running back. He's probably going to end up with 1,100, 1,200 yards this year. Probably going to end up with like 35 catches at most. I don't see him being a huge receiving back. They still got Jalen Warren, who's probably going to end up with 45 to 60 catches. But Caleb Johnson is going to be their workhorse, that Najee role, and he's better than Najee. So I'm confident that he's going to be just fine there in that Pittsburgh offense. And with Rodgers getting there, at least they got that veteran at quarterback who knows how to run an offense in the NFL. Number 16. Now here's the big shocker to some people, maybe not to you. Christian McCaffrey. I got McCaffrey down here for the simple fact of I can't trust him. This is not an indictment on Christian McCaffrey's talent. I don't think anybody would even consider that. Christian McCaffrey is one of the best PPR running backs we've ever seen in our lives. He's up there with the rivaling LaDainian Tomlinson, who to me is probably the number one PPR running back you'll ever see in fantasy football. If you don't know who LaDainian Tomlinson is, go look at it, because he had about a 4-year run where he was the number one pick and nobody was better than him. Period. Nobody. He caught passes, he caught touchdowns, he ran touchdowns, he threw touchdowns. LaDainian Tomlinson was like Weapon X for offensive fantasy football, and he was unbelievable. Well, that was Christian McCaffrey. We've seen it from Christian McCaffrey. But I also know the injury that Christian McCaffrey dealt with last year with the tendonitis in his Achilles. I've had Achilles issues. It's something you're always going to be worried about. I'm still worried about it every day. I climb up a ladder and stuff. So anytime I'm going up steps, I got to think about this. Ooh, don't be getting too excited and running up it. Now, I'm not an NFL player. I'm not trying to say all that. I'm just trying to tell you it's something that doesn't just easily go away. I'm sure he's been working his ass off since the beginning of last season to try to get healthy. But you seen when he came back, he wasn't the same guy, and he got hurt again. And it's like, oh, I just can't take the chance on McCaffrey anymore as a first or second round pick. And that's just the facts. Maybe you guys want to jump up there and grab him. My attitude is grab somebody else and protect yourself. Let the guy get him. If you get him in the third round, fine, pick him. I'm fine with that. No problem. Now the value is assessed with the risk. But first or second round, I'm out on McCaffrey. I can't draft him. I refuse to, simply for the fact that I can't trust him to stay healthy. And if I can't trust you to stay healthy because you've been injured so many times in your career, I don't think it's worth the risk to use one of your first 2 picks in a draft with, they say you can't win at the draft, but you can lose if you fuck it up. You can lose at the draft. You can lose the whole season if you don't know what you're doing drafting. And this comes into draft strategy, man. There's plenty of guys that are healthier, that are younger, that are still impactful instead of Christian McCaffrey that you can get on your team. Now, McCaffrey, like I said, he only played 4 games last year, guys. I didn't trust it. I was out on him last year. When they started talking about Achilles tendonitis in one leg, I was like, nope. Then they were talking about 2 legs. I was like, definitely nope. And the fact that he came back later in the season and got hurt again, I can't do it anymore. You give him to me in the third round, I'll take him. You give him to me in the second round, you can have him. That's how I feel about it. Second round or higher, second or first round, I'm out. I'm done drafting McCaffrey in the first or second round. I probably will never will again. Obviously, I don't know how much time he's got left. I definitely am not drafting him in first or second round this year. So, number 15, Bree Hall. Now, Bree Hall had a down season last year, got a little banged up, had Braylon Allen issues. They changed coaching staffs. They changed quarterbacks. The whole culture's changing around there with the Jets, with Aaron Glenn getting there compared to what Robert Salah had there. And Aaron Rodgers is gone. Justin Fields is in. They've just switched spots from Pittsburgh and the Jets. So that ends up being pretty funny that it actually happened. But at the end of the day, I think what Tanner Engstrand, the OC from Detroit's former QB coach, is going to be running there with that 2-back system. I do think Bree Hall and Braylon Allen are going to be in a 2-back system. I just think Bree Hall is the Jahmyr Gibbs of the Detroit situation where Engstrand's coming from. I think Braylon Allen's the Monty. I think they're both going to be valuable in fantasy this season. And it's why I can't put Bree Hall in the top 10, simply for the fact that I think Braylon Allen is going to be involved. I think Justin Fields is going to steal some of the yards and touchdowns rushing from both of those guys. But I do think it's going to be a somewhat successful offense to where, like, I got Justin Fields ranked, I think it was like, man, I'm trying to remember, number 10 in my other video, number 11, something like that. I'm big on what the Jets are doing on offense this year. I would love them to go get a Keenan Allen. I just heard something about Malachi Corley's showing out in the offseason. We heard that last year coming in with his rookie year, so I'm not ready to bet on that. They drafted Arian Smith kid who people are talking up. And I think their offense as a whole is just going to be better. Bree Hall is a special talent, period. He's one of those guys that can get 15, 16, 1,700 yards rushing. Is he going to do that this year? Probably not. He's probably going to end up with like 12 or 13. He's a guy that could catch 60, 70 passes. He had 50-something last year, 55, 60 last year. So I could definitely see him do that again. I just think Braylon Allen's going to be taken away from some of those rushing stats where I think, all right, if Bree Hall gets 250, 260 carries, 5 yards a pop, you're at 1250. 4 yards a pop, you're at 1,000. I think he ends up at somewhere in between there, 4.5 a pop, and he's at 1,100 yards or something. But he still has 55 to 65 catches for another 600 yards, maybe. Could end up with 20 total touchdowns if everything goes right. Could end up with 12 if Braylon Allen and Justin Fields still 7, 8 of the rushing touchdowns that they end up getting. But he's a guy that I'm still willing to draft with ease. Beginning of the third, end of the second. I think he's a guy you should be looking at the draft. I think he's a guy that still has tons of talent, and you should want a part of this in fantasy this season. Number 14. One of my favorite guys coming out of Michigan State, Ken Walker. He's with Seattle Seahawks. He's been there for a while, but he played at Michigan State. He was electric at Michigan State. I never understood why they didn't use him as a receiver, and I hope he gets to be used as a receiver more and more every year. He got banged up last year, only ended up with 500 and something, almost 600 yards. But he had like 46 catches in those games. 46 catches, I forget what it was. Had almost 50 catches, though, in the games he did play. Charbonnet's still there. You know, he's considered a running back. But when the game was going on, if Ken Walker was there, he was the main guy. Charbonnet could get like 3 drives a game, and then it was Ken Walker. Now, the OC has changed from Ben Grubb to who did they sign? I forget who they signed at OC right now. But no matter what, the offense is changing. I do think they're still going to use Ken Walker tons. It's about him staying healthy. If Ken Walker could guarantee me 15 games out of 17, Ken Walker would be a top 10 pick probably. Ken Walker is still an explosive player. He's a physical player. He's a guy that I love watching run the ball. And if I can get him on my team as my number 2 running back, I'm going to be real happy about it. Number 13, Jonathan Taylor. This is a guy I took at pick 11 last year. I had a 10-11 turn after winning the championship the year before. I took Amon-Ra and Jonathan Taylor. Should have took Barkley. He was under consideration. And then Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, those guys were all around it that I was looking at during the draft. But it was really like Gibbs and Barkley or Taylor or another receiver to go with Amon-Ra. At the end of the day, I took Taylor. Taylor almost tried to help me win the championship down the stretch, but it was those games in the middle of the season that kind of probably cost me the championship. Jonathan Taylor's getting older. I mean, he's only 26. It's not like he's a decade. He's not 30 or nothing like that. And short of Derrick Henry, there ain't many freaks that are going to make it past 29 or 30 in the NFL as running backs. But Jonathan Taylor is still a damn good running back. The news came out today. I meant to mention this earlier in the beginning, in the intro. Anthony Richardson is dealing with a shoulder injury, the same shoulder that he had surgery on in 2023. And I don't know if this is a setup for him to be traded or if this is a setup for Daniel Jones to end up being a starter or if he's actually just banged up and we don't know what's going to happen. But right now, they said he's probably not going to be ready till training camp, preseason time, somewhere in between there. And we'll see what happens. But that's big news for the Colts. Now, with Daniel Jones at quarterback, you don't have to worry so much about Richardson stealing touchdowns inside the 10. Jonathan Taylor will get the ball there. Daniel Jones will steal a couple, but he won't steal 5 like Richardson will. So Jonathan Taylor could end up being more valuable if Daniel Jones plays. But the talent of Richardson is I still think he's got a way higher ceiling than Daniel Jones ever will. And that threat of his physicality is something Daniel Jones lacks. I mean, Daniel Jones can fly down the field. We've seen it. When the play that the turf monster got him is the infamous play of his. But the man was flying down the field. Plain and simple, he was flying down the field before the turf monster got him. So he's still got that capability. I just don't trust Daniel Jones as a passer, and he looks terrified at all times. That's how he looks, and at all times. He always looks terrified. Go look at a picture of anything he's doing. He could be eating cake. He looks terrified. Just plain and simple. At any moment, he looks terrified. I've never felt comfortable with it. Like, something's wrong. Something's going on with this guy that I don't think I want him on my team. But Jonathan Taylor, I'd be happy to have on my team. I'm just not going to rank him as high as I would have because I don't trust Shane Steichen anymore, man. I just don't. I had high hopes for him going to the Colts. Now I just don't. I would rather see him go back to being an OC somewhere if they can't get it together there. They screwed up with Richardson by not getting a vet to put in front of him the first year. I just don't see what they're doing, man. They've been trying to fix it ever since there by getting veterans with Flacco's and Gardner Minshew's and now Daniel Jones. But at the end of the day, Richardson should have sat the entire first year, and he didn't. And it screwed up his progression in my mind. And I just don't – I'm not willing to draft Taylor as a top 10 player, top 10 back anymore, simply for the fact that I just don't trust the Colts right now. And I'm trying to help you guys win fantasy. And if that's the case, then I'm going to give you my honest opinion. I still love Jonathan Taylor as a running back. Still willing to draft him. Plain and simple. I still think he should go as the 18th, 19th best player or something like that. But I just don't want to tell you to reach for him like I did last year. I know I took him a little bit earlier, but it's because I loved him. He probably should have won as the 14th or 15th best player last year's draft in my home league. And I took him as the 11th because I wanted him. I was like, I want this guy. I want Jonathan Taylor. He's a guy I can trust. He's a guy, you know what I mean? I felt so confident in that. And then I felt like I kind of got screwed out of it, even though he tried to help me win at the end with those 200-yard games and stuff. That just shows you the talent he has. But trusting Shane Steichen in that Colts offense, missing when they lost Ryan Kelly, when they lost Will Fries, the guard, it's just hard to trust the Colts right now for me. So I got to drop Taylor down a little bit, and I would suggest you do the same. Number 12, Mr. I want some money, James Cook, Buffalo Bills. He wants a new contract. He's doing a light holdout right now in voluntary OTAs. That's what they're saying. Maybe he's just on vacation. I don't really know. But what I do know is James Cook had 16 rushing touchdowns last year. Now, the 2 years combined before that, he had 4. So where's his realistic mark? He's probably going to have a little regression. I want to be around 11 or 12, and I'm happy with James Cook as long as he can hit 1,000 yards. Last year, he barely hit that 1,000-yard mark. But if he can give me 1,000 yards, along with his receiving capabilities, which I would love for him to have 40, 50 catches. Last year, he only had like 30 or something. But the 16 rushing touchdowns is why James Cook jumped up so high. You show that potential, and with no threat other than Ray Davis back there right now, who I think can still be involved, similar to what he was last year, maybe get a few more carries. But I also think James Cook could get a few more catches. I expect James Cook to have a similar outcome, but if he does drop down to 9 touchdowns, 8 touchdowns, then you got to worry about, oh, this was a reach. But I think James Cook could do something like he did last year again. Like I said, maybe he gets 12, 13, but he catches a few more touchdowns. He gets up to that 45-catch mark. He helps out with the receiving yards, gets a few more rushing yards with the Bills' offense. And Josh Allen doesn't have 14 touchdowns. A couple more go to James Cook to balance out the regression he's probably going to have. I think these are all possibilities for James Cook. I think James Cook is a super talented player, and he's on a really good offense. So him and Jonathan Taylor are right there by each other because I think they're both players that I'm going to be happy to have, but I'm not going to draft as top 10 players simply for the fact that I do think there's room to either improve or decline based off the offense around them. And we'll see what happens going into the season. But going into right now, I got James Cook as the 12th running back off the board. Number 11 is a guy that popped off last year and got himself a new contract. That's Chuba Hubbard, Carolina Panthers. Now, they drafted the Trevor Etienne kid. They signed Rico Dowdle, which that could be interesting too, how many carries Chuba gets. Last year he had 250, 240, something like that carries. Had almost 1,200 yards. How many rushing touchdowns? 10 rushing touchdowns? 12 rushing? He had 10 rushing touchdowns last year. But he also had over 40 catches. Like, that's a fantasy stud running back, man. He's a top 10 running back. I got him here at 11 just because there's a couple guys I like over him. But Chuba Hubbard proved last year that he can be the workhorse. He got banged up a little bit at the end of the year. I think that was part of we're just going to sit you because we suck anyways in Carolina, and it's going to help improve our draft stock. But Chuba Hubbard is a damn good running back, man, and he proved last year he can handle the load. Even if they take a little bit, he goes down to 220 carries. Somebody else gets the other 30 that he had, or 30 or 40, whatever it was he had. And I think he's going to continue to get receiving work. So I'm not worried about that one bit at all. I expect the Panthers offense to be better, which should mean more opportunities. More opportunities to stay on the field, more opportunities in the red zone, end zone, all that good stuff. That's what you want for Chuba Hubbard. And drafting him here, I don't think you're reaching. I think it's right about where he's going to finish, is right around 11 or 12. by the end of the season as long as he stays healthy and everything. I don't think there's going to be much question about how good he is after this year. And once that happens, everybody will be like, all right, we can trust this guy. And that's what you want to see. But right now, I already trust Chuba Hubbard. Last year, he proved to me, hey, man, this guy's got skill. That's all there is to it. I don't need you to be the special Jahmyr Gibbs guy to be a starting running back on my fantasy football team. I need you to be consistent and be somebody I can count on every single week to get me 13, 14, 15 points with a possibility of a boom week to 25. And you give me that, I'm happy with you. And Chuba Hubbard can do that. So, number 10. Here's the guy that's flying up everybody's boards or telling you to draft him over a lot of guys. I like this guy a lot. He's a staple back candidate for me, and that's Bucky Irving. Bucky Irving's got tons of talent. Only started like half the season. Ended up with 1,100 yards. I think I could probably move Bucky a little bit higher than this, honestly. But there's just a lot of talent at the top of the running back list right now. And Bucky's only done it 1 year, but I love Bucky Irving. Like by the time I'm ready to draft my home league, he could be a little bit higher than this. But I'm trying to be realistic that I don't want to reach too high on him. I don't want to put him too high and pass up a guy that I like a lot. But Bucky Irving is a guy I like a lot, so he's going to be right in that range. Bucky Irving is a guy that's talented as shit and just missed out on some staple back stats last year because he didn't start all season. You give him all season as a starter, even with Rachaad White still there, even with Tucker still there, I think Bucky Irving could be to the moon, man. Could end up being a top 5 back and helping you win fantasy football again this year. You get Bucky Irving as a top 10 back and top 15 picks or whatever in your league, I think you're going to be happy as hell with Bucky Irving. I don't think you're going to have any question about that. I'm not worried about drafting insurance back with Rachaad White. You get Rachaad White as a guy later in the draft, that's fine. He's going to have catches. He's going to have to be involved. But Bucky Irving is the star of that show. And barring injury, I don't see any reason that's going to stop. So draft Bucky Irving with confidence. Draft Bucky Irving with the expectation that you're going to win some fantasy football championships. Number 9 on the board, Ashton Jeanty, Oakland Raiders rookie. This is why I say I would love to put Jeanty up a little bit higher, mainly because some of the guys are older. He's the young buck, but I have to see it on the football field before I put you in the top 5, Jeanty. That's just the facts. I got to see you do it on the NFL football field. Sorry. I know you almost broke Barry's record last year, and that makes you a special talent. I think Jeanty should be drafted with confidence. I think Jeanty will be a top 18 pick in my home league based off the fact that he's that talented. And what Oakland is doing with their offense, more importantly, with their coaching, with their scheme, Chip Kelly's going to get him as many opportunities as he can because they love to play fast. Pete Carroll wants to run the ball. Chip wants to run the ball. Jeanty is going to be one running the ball. They still got McCormick there. He's going to give a little relief when Jeanty gets wore out, when they got a 17-play drive like Chip Kelly loves to have. But Jeanty, I think, is going to be a number 1 running back. He'll finish as the number 1 running back in the league. Not overall, but as a number 1 starting running back, as a top 10, top 12 guy that you're not going to have to worry about once you put him in your lineup. The same with everybody. Barring injury, this guy should be successful as a running back in the NFL. I'm just not willing to take him over some of these other guys. Now, the next guy on the list, maybe they end up switching spots by the time I'm drafting, by the time preseason rolls around. And at number 8 is Kyren Williams from the Rams. I love Kyren Williams. I regretted not drafting him last year. He almost made it back to me in the 3rd. It was like, ooh, there's a guy who almost would have got. I like Kyren Williams a lot. I like what he does with the Rams offense. Sean Payton generally uses 1 running back. I know they got Corum. I know they drafted the Jarquez Hunter kid. Listen, Blake Corum. Listen, Kyren Williams is still the starting running back there. I think with them getting Devontae Adams, that's going to open some more holes. Getting Terrence Ferguson, that's going to open some more holes. Matt Stafford's still the quarterback. He knows how to drop it off to the running back when in need. But at the end of the day, they're going to be a run team, play action, and Stafford knows how to do that, and Kyren Williams is the perfect fit for that offense. Not to mention, he's in a contract year, and I love players in contract years. They're trying to get it all, so they're trying to go hard all season long. Give me a guy that's in a contract year on a decent to good offense, and I'll show you fantasy gold. Kyren Williams is going to be fantasy gold this year in my mind. Don't be surprised if he hits 15, 16 total touchdowns again like he did last year. Yeah, he had over 1,200 yards last year. I think almost 1,300 yards. I'd have to go back and look at the exact number, over 12. But 1,200 yards last year. Never a huge receiving back, but if he gets plus 30 catches, if he gets 34 more catches, that's 2 a game. That's an extra 2 points. Maybe he takes one for 20 yards, you get an extra couple points. Gets a receiving touchdown or 2. That's an extra points being tacked on to adjust his rushing skill. If he got more receiving work, he would be higher on this list. Kyren Williams would be a top 5 back. But Kyren Williams doesn't get enough receiving work to be a top 5 back, but he is a top 10 back, and he's a guy that I trust to have success as long as he's on the field. So Kyren Williams at number 8, I think it's a good spot for him, simply for the fact of the lack of receiving work, but it is an awesome running back and a good offense that just got better with Devontae Adams and Terrence Ferguson to spread it out. Nothing better than seeing open holes in front of you because your offensive weapons are spreading the field. So good for Kyren Williams, good for the Rams. Number 7, Devon Achane. Devon Achane can finish as the number 1 back. This is basically where I feel like we start that list. Who can finish as a number 1 back? Williams, maybe. Genty, maybe. Hubbard, Irving, maybe. Irving, probably, out of those 4, he's probably got the best odds just because of the receiving work that goes with him. But at number 7, here with Devon Achane, I think him and Irving are pretty similar, but I'm drafting Achane over first, simply for the fact that the guy had 70-some catches last year. He's got that Alvin Kamara capability to him. That I'm going in the slot, I'm coming out the backfield, I'm doing a crossing route, whatever you want. Devon Achane can do it as a receiver, and he had 900 yards rushing. Like, he is the new Alvin Kamara to me. And if you use him in the Alvin Kamara role, he can finish as number 1 running back. He needed more touchdowns last year. He only got 12. Could have had 20 probably if they'd have done him right, if the offense would have been going better. The opportunities that he had, the percentage of the team's offensive plays, period, was outrageous for a guy. He was at that Alvin Kamara level where it's either we're handing it to him or we're throwing it to him because they couldn't block long enough for players to get open downfield. Tyreek's banged up with a wrist and God only knows what else. And Waddle's going in and out the game. Jonnu and Achane were the offense last year on those short routes. Now, maybe he loses. He drops down to 60, 65 catches because Hill's back, because Waddle stays on the field. Maybe Jonnu gets traded and it's full Achane. I don't know. But I think Achane could be one of those players that could finish as the number 1 back in fantasy. And if that's what you're looking for, this is the guy you should be drafting in the first 2 rounds, period. Achane should be in the first 2 rounds, no questions asked, as a guy that can finish as the number 1 running back simply because of the receiving and rushing capabilities. Last year he had, I think it was like 1,400 yards almost total because he didn't have a huge number of receiving yards. He just had a huge number of receptions. And to me, that's Alvin Kamara's special. 65 catches, 372 yards because he doesn't always take it to the house. 400, 500 yards is probably the max that I would expect from Achane. If he could hit a 600 receiving yard mark, listen, Achane's definitely finishing as the number 1 back, period. And that's why, like I say, this is about the spot where that starts. This guy could finish as the number 1 running back. Next guy on the list is another guy I personally think can finish as the number 1 running back just because of how damn good he is. And that's Josh Jacobs of the Green Bay Packers. Now, I've gone into how I feel about them drafting Matthew Golden and still not having a true number 1 wide receiver. Speed still stretches the field. That's just going to help Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs last year had 1,300 some yards. If Josh Jacobs would have got more touchdowns, he had 15 rushing touchdowns, 14 or 15 rushing touchdowns last year. And he got his first receiving touchdown. So I take it back. Josh Jacobs had plenty of rushing touchdowns last year. Josh Jacobs needs some more receiving touchdowns because the man had 36, 37 catches last year. So he was one of those guys that right around 2 a game. If we could get that up to 3, if we could get to 51, if we could get Josh Jacobs to 50 catches and get him like 1,500 yards instead of that 1,300 yard mark, maybe 20 total touchdowns, Josh Jacobs probably finishes the number 1 back. Josh Jacobs is that damn good. Now, I can't put him up that high because other guys, he had over 300 touches last year. You're always going to be concerned about that when guys start getting up over 350. I think he was right under 350 opportunities. And at the end of the day, he's a guy that you can trust and that I'm drafting more importantly because I know what he's going to do when he steps on the field. When I put Josh Jacobs into my starting lineup, I don't have any questions. Period. I know what he's going to do. I know he's going to give me 15-plus points a week. If this guy can get to 18, 20 touchdowns, he could probably help you win your league. And it's possible, depending on what happened with the guys above him, that he could finish as the number 1, number 3 running back, somewhere in that range, top 3 probably. I love Josh Jacobs. I think that the Green Bay offense, with nobody really behind him and him being the focal point, I know everybody talks about, oh, Jordan loves this, Jordan loves that. Jordan Love's a good quarterback, guys. Jordan Love needs a number 1 receiver. Until he gets it, it's going to hamper the ability for Josh Jacobs to get even more opportunities because drives are going to stall out because they don't have that guy that can just go get a 12-yard catch for a first down. They can beat his guy on a route every single time. That's what a true number 1 receiver is, man. Guys that beat their guy on a route. You think about young DeAndre Hopkins. You think about guys like Jamar Chase right now. Justin Jefferson, that route running. These are the guys that beat their guy every time, and it's about that they have safety help over the top. But when I need 12 yards and a Amon-Ra St. Brown type player goes and gets me 12 yards, I don't see any of those guys on the Packers. Period. Jaden Reed's wonderful. I like Jaden Reed a lot. I wish they would put him on the field more often. But until they do, I can't say he's a true number 1. They don't even trust him as a true number 1 full-time. How the hell can I? So I'm going to go back to Josh Jacobs and say I know what they are going to do. They're going to hand off to this monster behind Jordan Love and let him do his damn thing. And Jacobs could hit 1,500 yards this year. If he could get to 400 yards, 350 receiving yards, he's fantasy gold, man. But even if you give me 1,200 and 200 receiving yards, I'm going to be happy as long as we got 12 to 14 touchdowns. And I'm going to draft you as such. Number 5, top 5 running backs. Here's another guy I think can, like A-Chain, can finish as number 1 overall, and that's Chase Brown, man. I was trying to trade for Chase Brown in the Kelsey deal I mentioned before last year. I wanted to get him so bad. I had Zach Moss. I got him in trade before that. And I wanted Chase Brown so bad because I knew what was about to happen. The guy that beat me in the championship, my buddy in my home league, he had Chase Brown. And it ended up costing me because I lost because of it, because Chase Brown snapped off. And Chase Brown didn't even start the whole season. And that's how good he is. He finished with almost 1,000 yards rushing, just under it, had 35 catches or something like that for 350 yards. And he didn't start all season. Chase Brown starting all season. They didn't draft any true competition. They still got Moss. They brought P. Ryan back, who I think is going to be the number 2 back. I don't think it's going to be Moss. I think Moss is going to be a cap casualty. And they drafted the Taj Brooks kid because they need another running back for a depth piece and hoping that he grows in to take over the P. Ryan role. But Chase Brown right now is their starting running back, man, and he's to the moon for me. Put him on the rocket ship, boys. We're leaving this bad boy, and Chase Brown's going to be riding with me as much as I can. I want to draft him in any draft that I'm going into, simply for the fact that I think he can finish as the number 1 running back in the NFL this year, or in fantasy. So he's a guy you should be drafted with confidence. In that Bengals offense, with the attention being paid to T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, Chase Brown is just running free. And every time they drop deep, he's catching the pass underneath. Like, Chase Brown is going to be the answer to a lot of what do the Bengals do if they double Higgins and Jamar Chase? They're going to throw the Chase Brown. So I'm confident as hell in Chase Brown. I think you should be too. I think you should be drafting him as a top 12 player. Period. Top 12 player. In those 1 QB leagues, he should be a first-round pick. 8th, 9th, 10th, whatever you want to say, he should be a first-round pick. Chase Brown, I'm about to say Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase is a first-round pick too, but Chase Brown is a guy that I'm drafting this year with the intention of helping me win my fantasy league, and you should be too. Number 4. Now here's an oldie but goodie, and that's Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry just got him a 2-year deal because Derrick Henry is a freak of nature, man. Derrick Henry is not normal. Derrick Henry is our era's Jim Brown. I'm going to say that again. Derrick Henry is this era's Jim Brown. Now, I didn't get to see Jim Brown live. I'm not that damn old. I'm old, but I ain't that damn old. Jim Brown, though, I've seen plenty of highlights. And what I know about Jim Brown was he was the strongest, biggest man on the field more times than not. Well, that's what it feels like watching Derrick Henry play. He is one of the biggest, strongest people on the field no matter what. And Derrick Henry is still doing his damn thing. He ran for 1,900 yards last year. He's never been a receiving back, so you're always happy if he gets any. I don't even think he hit 20 catches last year. I think it was like 18, 19 catches last year. But Derrick Henry is still capable of coming back this year and going for 15 or 1,600 yards and 20 touchdowns. Because Derrick Henry is a monster, man. He should be studied in labs when he's done playing. That's how I feel about it. Like, how do we build more of these guys for the NFL? Because they're so much fun to watch. We've all seen the highlights where he's just throwing grown men out of his way. Just get the hell out of my way. And it's just fun to watch. But in fantasy, man, until he stops, I ain't stopping. I said it before. I traded for Derrick Henry in the league 2 years ago. I have yet to be disappointed about this because he just keeps going. He's just that damn good, and I'm not going to pretend like he isn't. I should have drafted. He's another one of those guys. Should have drafted higher last year. You know what I mean? He's a guy that, I should have had this guy on my team. And Derrick Henry is a stud, man. So draft him with confidence. Don't be concerned about age because this guy he's beating the clock back every day. It's fun. It's fun to watch that he's just like, look, man. And the one thing, like, people always forget this about Derrick Henry. He didn't start off as a starter to begin his career. First 2 years in his career, he wasn't a full-time starter. So he doesn't have that wear and tear of a guy that's actually 31 years old. He has the wear and tear of a guy that's like 29 years old. Now, sometimes that's the cliff for people. For Derrick Henry, again, he's a freak of nature. I think Derrick Henry could go 2 more years being fantasy relevant. And maybe it's slowly. He doesn't hit 19. He hits 15 or some year. Next year, it's 1,100 yards. And you see it decline. But as long as he's in that Baltimore offense, he's going to have plenty of opportunities. And Derrick Henry is still a massive upside player for any fantasy league you're in. It doesn't matter what style it is. Derrick Henry is a player you should want on your team. Now, top 3. This is going to piss some people off, especially those folks over there on the East Coast. That's going to be the Philly fans, because Saquon Barkley is number 3. People go, what do you mean? Why is he number 3? How can you put him in number 3? He ran for 2,000 yards last year. Well, he also touched the ball over 400 times, including the playoffs. And history tends to repeat itself. Now, the only player to rush for over like 1,100 yards, I think it was, maybe it's over 1,300 yards, following a season in which they touched the ball over 400 times, was Barry Sanders, my favorite all-time player in the NFL. He ran for like 1,500 yards the year he got 2,000. That's what I'm expecting for Saquon. Saquon's one of the few running backs that I've ever seen that reminds me at all of things that Barry Sanders used to do. It's him and LaDainian Tomlinson, the guy I mentioned earlier. Those are the only 2 players that I've truly ever seen do something that goes, that reminds me of Barry. And Saquon has that talent. There's no doubt about that he has a special talent, and I'm still fine drafting him. I'm just baking in that he's not hitting 2,000 again. And if I think last year is going to be his career year. If Saquon Barkley comes out here and runs for 2,000 yards, you guys can all tell me, go fuck myself. I don't know what I'm talking about. You can tell me I'm an idiot. You can tell me you're out of your mind. Whatever you want to say. But I don't think that's happening. I think Saquon gets back to reality. Hurts has to throw some more. He gets 1,500 yards. And we're still very happy because he gets 12 to 15, 16 touchdowns. He still gets 35, 40 catches because he didn't even hit that last year. I think he was just over 30 catches. So just over 30 catches and 2,000 rushing yards. Well, I'm happy with that. But he's a staple back that you can draft with the confidence with the idea that he's going to finish as a staple back. He's going to hit that 400-yard receiving mark because he loses the rushing yards, 500 rushing yards going from 2,000 to 1,500. But he's still going to be involved in the offense. He's still going to be a big part of it. Barring injuries, Saquon Barkley is still going to finish as a top 3 running back. And I'm fine with that. But I'm putting him in number 3 simply for the fact that he just had his career year. I don't see him repeating that. So I'm not going to draft him as if that's what he's about to do. I'm drafting him as what history tells me is that after a 2,000-yard season or after 400-plus touches in a season, the running backs tend to have a decrease in their stats. So let's play that card and be like, all right, well, I'm still going to be willing to draft Saquon in the first round. I'm just not drafting over the next 2 guys up here. And the next 2 guys up here were switched spots until some recent news that we talked about earlier in the video. And that's at number 2, I got Jahmyr Gibbs. He was my number 1 running back Frank Ragnow retiring hurts my heart, man. Period. I got to drop Gibbs a spot simply for it because Frank Ragnow is a top 3 center in the NFL. And he did it last year through all types of injuries. He's done it the last couple of years through all types of injuries. But he's been playing his ass off. He knows how to block. He knows how to open a hole. You see the highlights against the Vita Vea play where he's down on one knee and he gets back up and still blocks him, so we get the touchdown. Frank Ragnow is one hell of a player that I'm not just going to discount. Oh, we can just replace him. We signed the Colin kid. The Lions signed the Colin kid as a depth piece. It's played center and guard. He's with the Cardinals and somebody else. I forget who the other team he played for before that. We drafted a Ratledge kid who I think that's going to help. But at the end of the day, I'm dropping Gibbs a spot for the fact that what if he doesn't get the extra couple touchdowns? What if they go to Monty? What if they go to J-Mo because we have to pass and we're not in a 3rd and 2, we're in a 3rd and 7? These are all the things that I have to consider when losing one of the best offensive linemen at his position in the league. And with Ragnow retiring, that's exactly what happened. So I'm going to put Gibbs at 2. Not going to be sad to draft him, and I can't guarantee I'm not going to draft him over who I got at number 1 if given the opportunity because I'm a Lions fan, and every now and again you got to go homer just for a spot or two. But at number 1 this year, guys, I got Bijan Robinson. I think Bijan's about to blow up with Michael Penix at quarterback, man. I think Bijan Robinson is about to explode, period. I think Bijan Robinson is about to be driving the rocket ship that I keep talking about. Let's put him on the rocket ship and go to the moon. Bijan's got his hands on the wheel of that thing. He's the one counting down saying, let's roll. Bijan Robinson last year had almost 1,500 yards or 1,450, something like that, and over 400 yards receiving. He's a stable back. There's no doubt about that. And Bijan Robinson could hit 20 touchdowns with ease this year. With ease. With Michael Penix at quarterback. I am fully in on Michael Penix as a QB. I loved him in Washington. I wanted him to be the starter when he got drafted last year. He went to the Falcons with Cousins ahead of him. He ends up getting the starts the last few weeks of the season. And you've seen the potential. That offense is going to be better. Losing Dahlman to Chicago, yeah, but they did re-sign their backup, who was supposed to be the replacement for him. And Dahlman's getting older. This guy's going to come in as a younger version, kind of like the Lions. They're going to have to put somebody younger in there. Going to have to see how it works out. But this is more about Michael Penix to me. I think Michael Penix is a stud quarterback, and it's only going to help the offense as a whole. And with Bijan, he's the focal point of that offense. Drake London's going to have a great season in my mind. Pitts, I told you, I'm out on. I'm not messing with Pitts. He's like the 18th best tight end in fantasy to me. And that's probably being too nice. Now, he could still end up getting traded, maybe, maybe not. But with Darnell Mooney as a field stretcher, Drake London out there taking attention, Pitts is still going to take attention away from people because he's still a freak athlete. That's all helping Bijan Robinson. Now, they still got Tyler Algier. I still expect him to get 120, 150 carries, somewhere in that range, because Tyler Algier is a damn good running back. You saw that when he rushed for over 1,000 yards as a rookie. And the only reason he's not the starting running back right now is because Bijan was available when they got to him in the draft. And Bijan's a special talent. I think that special talent finishes as the number 1 running back this year. And that's how I'm going to draft him, as the number 1 running back in fantasy. I don't care what league you're in, PPR, I don't care. Bijan Robinson is the number 1 running back in fantasy in me this year. And barring a shit ton of injuries across that offensive line or at another position for Atlanta, that's not going to change. Bijan Robinson is, to me, going to be the guy that explodes this year more than anybody else. That he could hit 2,000 yards. He could hit 2,500 total yards, which you don't see a lot. So you get Bijan Robinson on your team, the first running back off the board, I don't see how you could be disappointed, period. I think he's going to be the number 1 running back, guys. So that's just my honest opinion. Just want to give it to you. So that's 25-1. We'll go through with deeper rankings later in the season. Once we get closer to training camp, we're into training camp. We're getting some more info about real depth chart situations. Injuries are going to happen because it's football, so guys are going to move around. But right now, these are my top 25 running backs for 2025 fantasy season. I think you guys should truly consider drafting Bijan as the number 1 running back. And I don't think you should take Barkley as the number 1 running back. But I got him at 3, so it's not like he dropped real far. But at the end of the day, guys, this is my list. I hope you enjoyed it. We're going to get out of here. Until next time, I hope you're having a good afternoon, good evening, good morning, whatever time you're watching. Until next time, I'm out. First down punts.